Okay, my name is Judd Hoff, and you'd spell that Juddhoff. I live in rural Glenwood, Minnesota, and I'm unafraid of anybody who would try to coerce or intimidate me for my political views or my belief in my First Amendment right, which is why we're making this video because and by the way, my phone number is 320-762-1117 if anybody wants to talk to me about my views. I'm not afraid of anybody, including Tom Emmer. We're making this video in response to a very brief 1 or 2 minute video that was posted by Randy Olson of the Herman Hoffman Tribune, which depicts me on 3rd Avenue in Alexandria across from the Republican Party headquarters on the 29th of September of this year, 2010. It shows me with my megaphone and some of my children. What isn't shown, although he took lengthy video of me, he probably took 5-10 minutes of video of me. There was a sign that my oldest son was holding that said, Emmer says pay waitresses $2.13 an hour. And we were out there. We'd been doing this all summer, ever since July 5th, when Tom Emmer, at a campaign stop at the Eagle Street Bar and Grill in downtown St. Paul, Minnesota, met with a restaurant owner and the press and said that he was in favor of a tip penalty wage if he were governor, which would allow restaurant owners to pay waitresses $2.13 an hour, like they do in several states that suck, like Mississippi, Alabama, Missouri. And I was really angered by this because my mom was a waitress and my sister paid the taxes on our farm that I live on still with wages that she earned as a waitress at the Brass Lantern in Alexandria after my dad died and we were very short on money. It wasn't her tips she paid it with, it was her wages she paid it with. And my wife also has worked as a waitress. And I was really mad about that. It really shows that he's out of touch with common people. He obviously doesn't understand what it's like to have to work an unskilled job like a lot of people do. Education's unaffordable. There's a lot of problems in our society. You're not going to fix it by penalizing waitresses. Probably, who are helping, a lot of times their husbands are laid off. And they're the only breadwinner now because their husbands aren't able to employ their skills because they're laid off. So it's a bad economy, and these aren't the people that we should be trying to stimulate the economy on the backs of. So I was, needless to say, really mad about that. I've appeared in Alexandria at many busy intersections, probably a dozen times this summer with my megaphone and a lot of times my children and different signs. We'd wave the flag sometimes too. Had a Bible another time. But I guess the reason we're making this video is because after Tom Emmer stopped in town that day, as the video shows, his tour bus was there, and I didn't even know he was going to be in town, but I had my bullhorn. Something told me to bring it with me that morning. So I turned around and parked the van and said, "Come on, kids, let's go get him." And we sat there and I hollered at him till I just about lost my voice. It must have been 20 minutes worth of hounding him, asking him why. Does he still feel that way? Does he still have the opinion that he did on July 5th? Does he still feel like that's a good idea for our state to pay waitresses $2 an hour? I wanted him to come out and answer my question. He wouldn't do it. He's chicken. He's afraid of common people. Anyway, so this editor, he was making the video, and he come and handed me his card afterwards. He said that he really liked that. He said Emmer was an a-hole, and that he was really glad that I was doing what I was doing. Also, the cops had harassed me, and on his editor's blog for the Herman Hoffman Tribune, on the editor's blog around the date of the 29th of September, he had posted a commentary about how I was harassed by the police. And I called him that evening because he gave me his card, and we talked about it. And I told him, go ahead and use my name, put my name in there. I'm not afraid of anybody, And he said, well, these are really these are really sinister people. You know, Emmer's dangerous. He's a type of guy who'd sue anybody, and you know, I don't know. I mean, you probably wouldn't want that. And I said, no, I'm not afraid of anybody. I said, I use my First Amendment right, and you know, I'm not afraid. You know, I said, there's people, I get death threats. People call me on the phone. You know, I've had people threaten me in person even. I've been threatened to be, one guy threatened to shoot me when I go do my protests against Emmer and other subjects at times. And I'm not afraid. So I thought it was really odd that he just posted that clip real briefly. He didn't give it any context. He didn't say who I was. I don't even know if it said where it was at. It was. I think he probably could have done more justice to the event that day and the things that had occurred and my involvement, my activism. He could have done me more of a service as a newspaper editor, and more of a service to the public, bringing them the news. If he would have, rather than just writing a brief little editorial about how the cops harassed me, why didn't he show it? He told me that he had video of it. Why didn't he show the video of it? Did somebody get to him and tell him, you know, hey, you know, don't put that video on there. Don't. Did he pull it? Was it on and then he pulled it, or what? I'd like to know. I really don't understand his motives. And the police, what they did that day was they approached me on the sidewalk there where I was, as you see me in the video, and they said, you know, what are you doing? You know, and I said, well, you know, I'm using my First Amendment right. And they said, can we see some ID? And I said, well, I don't have to give you any ID. I usually refuse, you know. And I said, are you charging me with anything? And they said, no, but we've determined that you're in violation of the noise ordinance. I said, really? I said, well, I don't think so. I said, this thing is not, you know, over 110 decibels, and it's not after 10 p.m. So I don't see how I could be in violation of your noise ordinance. And he said, well, you are. He said, would you like to come to the squad car and I'll show it to you? And I said, well, I don't know, I'll think about that. And he said, well, can I see that ID? And I said, well, I'll tell you what. I said, you're a nicer cop, so I'll let you look at my ID. I gave him my ID, and he took it to the car with him, and I continued to do what I was doing, and then they come back and gave me my ID and said, would you like to see the ordinance, you know? And I went back to the car, I read it, and they had determined, well, I determined by reading the Alexandria's noise ordinance on the cop's squad computer that just about anything could be constituted as a violation of the noise ordinance, because it says, especially after 10 p.m. And that if it's disturbing people, well, so he said one person had called and complained, and therefore it constituted a violation, since someone was disturbed. I thought, wow, one person there can shut down somebody's First Amendment right, all because they're disturbed. Well, who? I asked who called and complained. He said, well, I saw a business, you know, around here, you know, and they said it was a campaign. Republican headquarters is a business too, and which that's kind of questionable in my book. I don't know if that counts as a business, but I didn't want to argue with him. And he said, well, here's what'll happen. He said, if anybody calls again and complains that you're being too noisy, we'll respond again. We'll come here again, and at that point we may or may not cite you with a violation of the noise ordinance. And I said, well, you know, sounds like pretty good odds to me. I'm busy. I'm not done yet. So I went over there and started hollering at Emmer some more, and I told him to get out of my town, and he ought to be ashamed of himself. He ought to apologize to every working woman in the state, especially waitresses. He ought to be ashamed, and he should be. But it is an interesting point that anybody could be in violation of the noise ordinance when they exercise their First Amendment rights, so long as someone's disturbed. And, you know, I would imagine that it was the Republicans that were disturbed. And I don't think it was the noise that was disturbing them. I think it was what I was saying that was disturbing them. And it goes to show how the authorities will coddle to some people and not others, and how they'll stop you from exercising your First Amendment right if what you're saying bothers someone who either has influence with them or is in power or is in some position in society where you don't matter as much as they do. And I think it's kind of a disgrace, although I do commend the officers for using their latitude and not citing me. I take it the city attorney would have had me cited if he could have, but he wasn't going to come down there apparently and do it. I never received anything in the mail, so maybe he decided to leave it up to the officers. But I went back out there and I did my thing, and it looks like Emmer's going to lose. He's down in the polls, if you can believe those, and I don't have any regrets about it. But I really think that Randy Olson could have represented the facts better instead of just pulling me out of context like that and talking about me anonymously. That's all I have to say.